Recording. All right, there we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. So we left off. Today is Daf Kuf. Today's Daf Kuf Chavav is today, I believe. Yeah, Kuf Chavav. We left off at the bottom of yesterday's Daf. At the two dots. So we were discussing. There was three cases in the Mishnah. The third case of the Mishnah was discussing basically shutters, putting shutters back into the window. Now, there's machlokes as to putting the shutters back in. It could be a problem of binyan, a building, right? You can't build on Shabbos, baina. So shutters, perhaps it's being meisif ala binyan. Perhaps you're being adding onto the structure. So if it was attached to a rope, then you would be able to do it because then it's connected to the house and it's hanging. It's hanging, suspended in the air. According to the first opinion, that of Rabbi Eliezer, that would be okay. But according to Chachamim, they say no. Benkach or benkach, either way, you can use it. It's not a problem of binyan. We have to see what benkach or benkach means. So let's go on to the Gemara, maybe around 7 lines from the bottom. Benkach hachalon. So the shutters of the window. So Amar Rabbi Rechana Rabbi Yochanan Hakol Moedim. Everyone agrees. One is not allowed to make a temporary structure on Shabbos, on Yontif. It's a problem of binyan. Even something which is temporary is an oyhel. You can't make a tent in oyhel, and you can't do it on Yontif, and certainly we can't do it on Shabbos. And the only machlokes is whether you're allowed to go ahead and add to a structure. According to Rabbi Eliezer, he says you can't even add on Yontif, and certainly you can't. You don't need to. I don't need to tell you they can't add on Shabbos. Say no, you can't. You're allowed to go ahead and be meisif even on Shabbos, and if you can be meisif on Shabbos, certainly you can go ahead and add on even on Yontif. So that was basically the machlokes in our Mishnah was referring to adding on to a binyan, right? The house is already built, and we're being meisif, right? This temporary, shutter, right? Or because you're only putting in the window now, you're taking it out later on, which is temporary. So can you add that in or not? That's machlokes between Chachamim and Rabbi Eliezer. And then the Chachamim say, and they say either way, you're allowed to go ahead and you put the shutter back in. Now, the Tanakh or Rabbi Eliezer said it has to be hanging from a rope. All right, that's the only way. That's the only condition you can do. If it's hanging, suspended from the air, the shutter, it's hanging because the rope is not long enough for the shutter to be resting on the ground. So therefore, when you take it out of the window, it's just sort of dangling off the side of the house. Then it's mutter. And Chachamim say, no, benkach u benkach. Either way, it's mutter. What is it? Either way? Which two ways? So my benkach u benkach. Some Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Amar Kanas. Turn the page. Bein kosher, bein shein kosher. For who? Shemasukan. It means whether it's tied or not. Benkach or benkach, whether it's tied or not tied, you can go ahead and put it in. Okay, so now, here's what this means. Even if it's tied, it doesn't have to be hanging from the air, right? In other words, the rope can be long, and the shutter can be basically leaning up against the house, or lying on the ground of the house. Okay, so basically there's 3 levels. There's being tied and hanging, or dangling, right? And being suspended in the air. There's being tied and just resting on the ground. And there's not being tied at all. So benkach or benkach means all 3 of those are okay.
Sorry.
And however,
we're
at the top of Kuf Chaf Vav Amud Aleph. We just read literally the first line of that one.
From the bottom of Kuf Chaf.
Yeah, we started at the bottom. Sorry.
Okay, go.
So, however, it has to be fixed and appropriately set to go ahead and be used. That's a Vusha Masuka. So look at this. So second line, Amalei Rabbi Yirmiyah. So it says Rabbi Yirmiyah. I Velema Mar. Why do you say benkach or benkach means whether it's tied or not? Why don't you say Lema Mar bein toli bein shein toli? Right? Whether it has to be tied, okay? But whether it's suspended or not suspended, whether it's a long rope or not long rope, right? Because if it's dangling, then it's already part of the structure. If it's not dangling, it's not really hanging from the house anymore. It's maybe sort of considered to be separate. And on that, you can say even if it's separate, as long as it's tied, it's okay. Why don't you say it that way, right? The Amar Rabbi Berchan Amar Rabbi Yochanan K'machlokes Kan Kach Machlokes B'Nagar. Just like there's a machlokes over here in our case with the shutter, so too has almost an identical machlokes in the case of a bolt, B'Nagar Hanigra. and a dragging bolt. In other words, the bolts are used, I was see in the Mishnah, they're used basically to close the door, right? To bolt it in so it closes. So the Tanan, Nagar Hanigrar, Noalim Baba Mikdash, Aval Loiv Medina. A dragging bolt. In other words, it seems to be a bolt that's basically tied down, but it's dragging, right? It's contact on the ground. So you can go ahead and use it in the mikdash. Now, the difference between the mikdash and the Medina is the mikdash is the gzeras, the rabbanans did not apply in the mikdash. They were careful not to, to violate any doraisa. So therefore, the rabbanans were not necessary for the most part in the mikdash. So therefore, they weren't goyzer often. But in the Medina, outside of the mikdash area, those the gzeras made by the rabbis were instituted. So we say nagar anigra nolim b'mikdash. You can use it in the mikdash of aloy Medina. But you can't use it in the Medina, right? You can't use something that's attached to a rope, okay, and it's dragging to the ground, okay, which is sounds like very similar to Rabbi Eliezer and Amish, because Rabbi Eliezer and Amish, remember, says that the shutter has to be hanging, it can't be dragging to the ground. And if it is, it can't be placed in the house because then it looks like it's binyan, right? V'hamunach, and if it's basically laying on the ground without any rope, kamakan aser, it's always aser. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer, who's going to go ahead and be the opinion of our Rabbanan in our Mishnah, who says Benkach or Benkach. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Hamunach b'mikdash, if it's laying in the mikdash, v'anigra b'Medina, even if it's laying around in the mikdash, not tied at all, or v'anigra b'Medina, or if it's dragging the Medina, you're allowed to use it. The Tanya, we learn Ezer Nagar Hanigra. What does it mean that it's dragging? Shanolim b'Mikdash. What is the type of bolt we're talking about that's dragging that you're allowed to go ahead and use in the mikdash v'loy b'Medina? Right, anything that's tied right to the door, the bolt is right. It's tied, and its head, the part of it, is on the ground. So if it's on the ground, then it's considered to be dragging. So that which is identical to our case of basically reaching the ground. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Zeh af b'Medina mutter. Even this is Medina in the Medina's mutter. In other words, even if it's right, if it's touching the ground, then it's mutter. El ezer shebedina aser. What's the type of this? Aser kol she'ena loy kasher v'loy talor. The shamto maniach b'keren zavis. Something that's not tied at all. If it's not tied at all, says Rabbi Yehuda, that is basically, and is just put in the corner, that's considered muksa. But in Medina, if the bolt is tied, even if it reaches the ground or it doesn't reach the ground, either way, right, that can be used. But Amar Rabbi Shubar Abba Mishmei Ula Mantana Nagar Anigra. Who's the Tana over there? That's Rabbi Eliezer. That's our Rabbi Eliezer. So what do you see over there? Machlokas over there is identical, right? We said the Machlokas is identical, and over there, the Rabbi Eliezer, who's the Tanakama over there, or the Tanakama who we just said is Rabbi Eliezer, says that in the Medina, right? Forget about the Mikdash right now because we're talking about case of Durabanans, right? So in the Medina, outside the base of Mikdash, it has to be hanging in the air according to the Tanakama, which is Rabbi Eliezer, and according to Rabbi Yehuda over there, which we say is the Rabbanan. Even if as long as it's tied, even if it reaches the ground, it's okay to go ahead and use that bolt and put that bolt in, because if it's not, then otherwise it's also considered to be building on Shabbos. So if that's the machlokas, in our case, benkach or benkach should mean whether it's tied and touches the ground or tied and doesn't touch the ground. Those are the two options. Not it's not tied at all. Not tied at all should be usher. So the answer is no. You're right. That is Rabbi Yehuda. However, our Rabbanan don't hold like Rabbi Yehuda, right? So I'm really actually hold like this time. The time you live in rice. Kanashis kina be'erev ba'alabais lias paisech v'noel ba'bizman shekasher. So you say a person has a kana, right? He has a some sort of pipe, right? That he wants to go ahead and use it to open and close his door, but it's like a regular kana, like a regular reed or pipe, right? When it's tied to it, as long as it's tied, therefore you see it's basically prepared to be used as something which, in essence, is works like a bolt, opens and closes, locks and unlocks the door. However, however, it's not tied and hanging. You can't go ahead and use it if it's not tied before Shabbos. Right? As long as it's prepared, even if it's not tied. According to Shengalil, that he says no. Even if it doesn't have to be tied. Even if it's not tied, as long as basically it was set to use, it fits in the door. Then it doesn't need to be tied before Shabbos. And therefore, our Tanakama, according to our Rabbanan, according to the interpretation of Rabbi Abba in the name of Kahana, our Mishnah goes like this opinion of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel that says that even if something is not tied at all, it's not a problem of Maisif Alabinyan. And Amar Rav Yehuda, Barshidas, Amar Rav Asim, Rav Yechanan, Halacha Rosh Gamliel. Halacha is like Rosh Gamliel, that one that does not have to be tied before. The Gemara says, Yumi Amar Rav Yechanan, does Rav Yechanan always, does he pass in like Rosh Gamliel? But now we see another case. Kol Kisoya Kalim, all covers of Kalim, Sheyesh, Lohem, Beis Achiza, right? Cats, if they turn the page, they will be excited, right? So he says, so any kalim that have a beis achiza, right? They have a handle, right? Right? Beis achiza, nitlim b'Shabbos. You're allowed to go ahead and, since they have a handle, therefore they're usable on Shabbos. You can touch on, you can use them on Shabbos. It's only in the condition that it's called the kli because it can be used for other things, whether as a dish or something like that, as a cover for other things. So you want to say what about our case, right? Our case. So why is the rod not muksa, right? There's no handle to it, and who said it could be used for other? It's not a kli for use for other reasons. So why is it not muksa? So if you say, okay, maybe there doesn't have to be maybe our case is it doesn't have to be in our case, it is talking about a case where it's already a kli. If you're talking about Shon Gamliel, who says he requires something to be a kli? The taras kli about time than a brisa. If you have let's say a pile of wood that basically was placed on the ground, and the bundle of wood is basically going to be used for fuel. Then he decides on Shabbos he wants to go ahead and use some of them for sitting on. So Tzarech L'Kasher has to be tied together. Basically has to be prepared from before Shabbos to tie these things to go ahead and use it as for seating. Or Shingle and there ain't Tzarech L'Kasher. You don't have to. You don't go ahead to do any sort of physical change. You can just sit on them on Shabbos. You move them and sit on them on Shabbos since you just want to sit on them before Shabbos. And so, what do we see there, according to Shon Gamliel over there? It doesn't have to be a kli, right? And you don't need to go ahead and do a physical preparation. So, how could if Rabbi Yechanan says you need it to be a kli in order to use, in the case of the cover to a kli, right? So, it needs a beis achiza in order to be handled on Shabbos. Why, in our case, does the rod, right, that's used to go ahead and close the door and lock the door, right? That's not a kli. So, what's the difference? So Rabbi Yechon Svirle Kvasi Bechado Palige Bechado. So he holds like in one. In one case, he holds that you need to be a taras kli, right? And in order for something to be moved, it has to be, if it's a cover for something, it has to be taras kli. But in the other case, as long as something is going ahead and designated to be used, then that doesn't need to be go ahead and tied, and therefore Rabbi Yechon only holds like a sugar in one case, but not all the cases. Fine. And Doresh Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Pischa Deresh Glusa. So he said over there, right? Rabbi Nafcha over there on the doorstep of the Reish Galusa. Halach Rabbi Eliezer, halachas like Rabbi Eliezer, that, like we said in the beginning of our Mishnah, that one, it has to be hanging in the air in order to be a shutter to be used. It has to be suspended in the air while tied to the house. If we have another Mishnah that says, and from their words we can learn that one can go ahead and measure out and put it in and tie it up and put it on Shabbos. So we have another case which seems to be that something was even untied can be used as a shutter on Shabbos. So we have another Mishnah that seems to say that, and over here we say otherwise. So my daischa. So what's your opinion? Mishum diktani stama nagar hanigra. Right? Why? So why do you think our case is any better? Right? Because there's a stam mishnah that says nagar hanigra, and in that case over there, right? The stam mishnah appeared to excuse me. So my daischa mishum diktani stama. The stam mishnah over there, and therefore it should be the halacha that you can't drag it. The case of dragging, in other words, the case of the bolt when it was attached, as long as it attached, is also stam mishnah. So we have one stam mishnah that seems to say that it has to be attached and dangling. We have another stam mishnah that seems to be that even if it's it's dragging along, that is sufficient. So no, the reason why they want to say is that they asked the kasha from that over there. That Mishnah says from their words we see. Well, it wasn't just their words. It wasn't just a stam Mishnah. Rather, it was a ma'aser Rav. Right? It was a ma'aser Rav where they said they used shutters that were not tied from before Shabbos. So therefore, that ma'aser Rav is more of a kasha than just having a stam Mishnah, which appears that it had to be tied before Shabbos. Fine. Naya Mishnah. Mishnah says. Kis, yes, Kol. I guess read the Kol. Let's see. Yeah. No, you took it out. Fine.
Naya Mishnah.
Naya Mishnah. So Kisa Kalim Sheish Beis Achiza Nitlam B'Shabbos. So any covers of Kalim that have a beis achiza, that have a handle, are allowed to be moved on Shabbos. And Amar Rabbi Yosef, all we're talking about covers of ground. Let's say a ditch in the ground, and then it needs a handle. But if, let's say, you're talking about covers, let's say, of a pot or a dish, which is a movable utensil, then whether or not it has a handle, nitlim b'Shabbos. It can be used on Shabbos or moved around on Shabbos. So Zok the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda bar Shila, Amar Rav Asi, Amar Rav Yechon, v'hu sheyesh tayras kli aleha. It has to be considered to be a kli. It has to be already that these kalim, right? It has to be considered to be a kli in order to be moved. Dekuli, so now I was explaining. Dekuli yama kisei karkos. Everyone holds when it comes to covers of the ground. Im yesh lahen beis achiza in ilolo. Everyone agrees. So we're trying to explain the machlokes. Everyone agrees if it's a cover to, let's say, a pit or a ditch, right? Then that if it has a handle, then you can move it on Shabbos. If there's no handle, then it's not, right? And kisei when it comes to covers of utensils, everyone knows even if it doesn't have a handle, you can go ahead and move it on Shabbos. So keep pligi bekelim the chavrino ba'ara. When do they argue about? When they argue about, let's say, which you have a kalim that are attached to the ground. So Mar Saver Gazrinan, Umar Salo Gazrina. One says we're geyser. In other words, these are similar to the ground, and therefore it should need a beis achiza. And the other person says no, it does not require a handle. And l'shnachrina, some say kipligi b'kisui tana, or the covers of an oven which is attached to the ground. So marmadav the kisui karka. One says since it's attached to the ground, similar to the ground, therefore it needs a handle, a cover to the oven. Or marmadami the kisui kid. The other one says no, it's not. Since it's it's not the actual ground, even though it's a stove attached to the ground. Nevertheless, a stove is considered to be the kli, and therefore it does not require a handle. So Hadran Allah kol ha kalim. All right, beautiful. All right. All right. All right. Right there. All right, mouse up.
Randy, mute it, Randy.
Mayor, I got you.
All right, now we move on.
Yes.
All right, milestone, let's go. All right, we got to move on. So, we're about to remove him. All right, so
You're moving, please.
Yeah. So mafnin. So mafnin afilu arba v'chamesh kupos shel teven. So we say we remove 4 or 5. One is allowed to move 4 or 5 boxes of straw shel tvua. So over here, a person needs, let's say, the area, and you have normally straw is not really fit for Shabbos for usage, right? So oftentimes building materials, but it could be used because actually some straw can also be animal feed, right? So over here we're saying that let's say the person needs a space for his guests coming over to eat, or he has talmidim coming, right? So so it's not necessarily muksa. He's allowed to go ahead and move it. And even though we don't want a person to do tircha yisera, right, to do extra work on Shabbos, nevertheless, to clear off 4 or 5 would be okay. Boxes, teven shel tuah, mipnei orchim for guests, mipnei bittul beis hamedrash, or in order to basically make space for a talmidim. Aval lo yesachatzer, but but not for the storage house. Storage house, they should not go ahead and remove them because a person goes ahead and moves in his eitzer. Perhaps he'll see spots on the ground, and he'll start, evening it, smoothing it out. But we'll get there. And mafnin truma tahira. Once again, if he has straw, which is truma tahira, now it's tahira. Now, if it's tahor, udamai, and something which was damai umaysa rishon shenita shemasa. So all these things are basically truma tahira, right? Can be used properly, udamai, and also something which is demai. Demai is from Amaretz. Something they took truma, but not sure whether they took other meiser. So a person has taken and go ahead and take basically meiser for that. Or meiser rishon shenita chumasai, or meiser rishon that they took from it, that it's truma that they took from it. Basically, it was given to the kohanim, right? The meiser rishon, basically, they're meiser truma. Or meiser sheni. Also, let's say something was meiser sheni, the hektish shenivdu, or hektish that was already deemed, v'haturmas hayavesh, and turmas hayavesh, type of bean, I guess, which can be eaten. Mipnei shehu meichalizim, because these can be fed to goats. So since these items, right, can be fed to animals, are usable on Shabbos, so therefore they can be moved. Since there is some sort of usage, even though a person he himself doesn't use it, but since there is a usage basically for his animals, and these things are already fixed for an animal, in other words, he's allowed to do it, as opposed to if Allah is a tevel, but you can't take tevel, right? Tevel is something, let's say they didn't take chumas or maisers from there yet, so therefore that's called tevel, and one is forbidden to use tevel, right? You have to take out truma before you start going ahead and feed your animal. You can't go ahead and feed your animal from your crops, right? But it's a tevel, plus meiserisha shalanota chumasa, or meiserisha was given to the Levi, and he did not take out his tenth and give it to the Kohen. But it's a meiser sheni, the hektish shalaniptu, or if they didn't take meiser sheni, right? Right, or the meiser sheni, let's say they have to be redeemed, right? In Yerushalayim, he didn't transfer it to money yet, so he's not allowed to go ahead and eat it, and he can't go ahead and transfer it and do that action on Shabbos. Right, person can't go ahead and take it, so therefore he's stuck. There's no use for it on Shabbos. Since there's no use, I can't use it for my animals, can't use it for anything else. Therefore, he's not allowed to go ahead and start moving the stuff away. Or hektish halanita, or hektish that was not redeemed. V'lo aluf, and also not aluf, which is type of bean. Also, that this one is not really edible. V'lo chardal, not a raw mustard. He actually says, no, loof is okay, or because ravens eat it, even though maybe goats don't eat it, but ravens eat it, and therefore that would be permissible to go ahead and move those on Shabbos. And chavile kash, v'chavile eitzim, v'chavile zardim, and let's say you have bundles of straw, right, of wood, or other shoots. If he goes ahead and he has them set aside to feed them animals, then he go ahead and move it, being love. But if not, then he can't go ahead and move them because they were never designated. Since they were bundles, basically they were either used for other purposes, then he can't go ahead and use it. Now, so the Gemara asks, it says, right, we said 4 or 5. So once you say you're allowed to go ahead and move 5 boxes, so why can't you go ahead and move 4? Of course you can move 4 boxes. So why say 5 or 4? Just say 5, right? So Amar Rav Chisda 2 teres. Amar Rav Chisda arba mechamesh. Maybe it means 4 or 5. In other words, we don't want you to clear out an entire room, right? Because then maybe a person clears out an entire area, right? He might come to start going ahead, see holes in the ground, and then start smoothing them out. So because now he's uncovering where boxes once were. So therefore, if there's 5 there, 4 of them, because he doesn't need a perfect floor, or b'chamesh or 5 me'otzei gadol, and 5 from a large storage house. So what does it mean? But not the oitzer means shelo yaskal b'oitzer tchila. In other words, he shouldn't go ahead, and this is the first time removing it, because once he starts to go ahead and remove it, right? Then he might come to go ahead and either move more, take out a lot of boxes, or start smoothing the floor. Umani, and whose opinion is this? This is Rabbi Yehuda. These say muksa. According to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who is very more machmer in muksa, because we don't want people touching more boxes. Shmuel Amar, what does 4 or 5 mean? He says, no, arba chamish kadami, which kadami, like people say, 4 or 5, in other words, 4 or 5. Boy afilu atuva, and if he wants, he can even take more. It's not limited to 4 or 5. You can even take many boxes, right? You can even take many boxes. We're not worried about muksa, so soon explain. Now moving my avaloy. So what does it mean? You can't, but not when the Mishnah said not the otzer. Shala yigmar kulo, and it means don't do the warehouse, means don't finish the warehouse. Don't remove all the boxes from the warehouse. Because you can do a lot, right? You can do more, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever you want. Just as long as you don't take, there's 12 boxes in the warehouse, you can't take out all 12. You should not eat more kulo. Dilma asi lashui gumais. Perhaps he'll go ahead and smoothing out the holes. but he would be allowed to go ahead and begin to clear out stuff in the warehouse for the first time, and we have no worries that he's going to smooth the floor, and we're not worried about muksa mani. And whose opinion is this? This is Rabbi Shimon, the last time muksa. This is Rabbi Shimon, who is more lax when it comes to the halachas of muksa. All right, we'll stop here. Everyone have a wonderful Shabbos, and Sunday morning, Mitzvah Shem, we will start at 7 a.m.